Hello, what's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. And for today's video we'll be looking at the Grand Mafia. How do you get your Grand Godfather's equipment or even Legacy Godfather equipment by getting the best out of your Godfather's contract and your Grand King contract. For today's guide, I'll be showing you the breakdown on how many contracts you need to obtain Grand Godfathers, and also a comparison of how many contracts you can get from dismantling your Elite Godfathers when you exchange your Grand Kings for an Elite Godfather set. And yes, this is just an example of me creating my Grand King and just swapping out with the Elite Godfathers using the obscure market exchange, which comes by a couple of times a year. I think once every 4 months or 5 months, around there. And yes, I've gotten curious on how many Grand King set I need, or for example, which Grand King should I aim to get the contracts on. Should I get more contracts on like King's top, King's accessories, etc. And for today's video we'll find out which King's equipment is the best, or is one of the better ones to exchange to get a Grand Godfather set. And also you have a lot of these equipment exchange coupons, so in this video you'll know which King set to exchange for, or which equipment type to exchange for when you have a lot of these equipment coupon set to get your Grand Kings. And yes, over here we get a recap on the amount of total contracts to obtain a Grand King. And for this you can take a look at my previous video that I've done on how many kind of like contracts you have to get to obtain Grand King, and a comparison on if you should exchange your Grand King for Elite Godfather set, and what are the plus and minuses if you have a full Elite Godfather set versus a full Grand King set. And next up you can see that this is the amount of contracts you get from dismantling an Elite Godfather. And how I get upon these numbers is that basically I just total up how many contracts is required to obtain an Elite Godfather set, and by dismantling an equipment you obtain only 80% of your total materials used, which is shown on the most right hand side of this table. So the total contracts needed to build Elite Godfather set, for example the tops, you need like 3 grand, 1 elite, 1 rare and 2 common. But for example by dismantling this Elite Godfather set, you need get 80% of those contracts, which is 2 grand, 2 elite, 2 rare and 2 uncommon. And over here you can see a comparison of what equipment type is more worth it to convert from a Grand King to Elite Godfather set based on how many contracts you would obtain when you dismantle the Elite Godfather's equipment. So for example, equipment type tops, you require a total of 2,728 common contracts for it to go up to Grand King, and by converting it into an Elite Godfather's top and dismantling it, you will receive 680 common contracts. And the most right hand side of the table tells you how many returns you will get from the amount of contracts you spend for the Grand Kings. And basically this percentage means is that for every 4 common contracts that you have put into Grand King equipment, you get 1 common Godfather's contract back. And the higher the percentage of these returns, the better it is, the better return of investment you have basically. I've already tabulated how many contracts you need for Grand King versus the equipment type, and also how many contracts you will obtain from dismantling Godfathers. And I've also standardized the grade for all the contracts so that it's easier to compare which is common contracts, the lowest of the grades. And yes, as you can see, the lowest of these is the Pens contract. So 12.5% return means about, it's very low. I think it's every 8 contracts you spend to obtain the Grand King set for the Pens, you need to obtain 1 Godfather's contract, which isn't very good. So from this list, basically my recommendation is to use all your equipment exchange coupons on either the top equipment or the accessories equipment, which will grant you the most returns. And basically for this, it just tells you how many contracts you require to obtain a Grand Godfathers from building it from scratch. And I think this isn't very relevant for most of you. So for the next one, and from this table you can see how many contracts is required for you to up your Elite Godfather set to a Grand Godfather set. A rule of thumb is you have to exchange 4 Grand King set of its equipment type. So basically what I mean by this is that in order to obtain elite to Grand Godfather top equipment type, you have to exchange 4 Grand top equipment type into an elite Godfather and dismantle all of these 4, and you obtain Grand Godfather set. But of course there is a trick when I mentioned just now the return of investments that you get, and the amount of contracts you get for each dismantling of elite Godfather set is different. So for accessories, you obtain the highest amount of common contracts. So I think basically you only have to exchange about like 1 or maybe 2 Grand King accessories for you to obtain a Grand pens, or maybe even a Grand melee Godfather's equipment. Yeah, so I hope this short statistical presentation helps to give you a better glimpse on what to exchange, and to help you to gain your Grand Godfather set a lot more quickly, instead of exchanging your equipment coupons for something that's less valuable, like the King's pens or even the King's shoes. As you can see in this spreadsheet, I've also calculated the amount of elite Godfather equips you have to swap to attain Grand Godfathers, and this is a breakdown. Over here I've already round up the number of elite Godfather equips you have to obtain. So how you read this is that, for example, for tops, you need 4 elite Grandfather tops to be exchanged in order to get 1 Grand Godfather top. And of course this is so on and so forth. The worst is of course the pens option. You have to exchange 8 elite Godfather pens in order to have your tops be Grand level, and which means you have to create 8 Grand pens equipment, which isn't realistic at all. As I mentioned, the best return is exchanging your Grand equipment tops and accessories as shown over here. You can see that quite a number of equipments for the melee pens and shoes Godfathers. You just have to exchange your accessories, your elite Godfather accessories, twice in order to get them up to Grand. So I think it's a pretty good deal to be building a lot of the Grand King accessories, and which, if you have seen my previous video on opening 8,000 equipment crates, this is the reason why I have a lot of accessories equipment crate. Accessories gives you back the most contracts for Godfather, although it also requires more Grand King contracts in order for it to reach Grand King for accessories. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and do remember to click the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and look forward to releasing more of the Grand Mafia tutorial videos or even some gameplay videos.